Okay, welcome everybody. Sorry we are running late this evening. We were in a, hello. Thank you, Aisha. We were in another meeting. Just took us all a few minutes to get together here. So we have a relatively light agenda tonight since we're starting late. Yeah, knock on wood, thank you. And we'd like to start this evening as we always do with our Pledge of Allegiance led by one of our fifth graders. And tonight we have Rory Wallach from Ward, who is back by popular demand. So Rory, if you wouldn't mind coming up, and for everyone who is able and willing to participate, please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you very much, Rory.
Thank you, Rory. Good to see you.
Okay, public comment tonight. Lisa, we have no one signed up and no one virtual. Okay, first ever, thank you very much to the public. We'd love to hear from you. Consent agenda, we have a memo on a donation to accept. We have a field trip memo, and we have the meetings from our January 27th meeting. Is there anything a member would like to pull from the consent agenda for further discussion? Okay, seeing nothing, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Okay. Moved by Rajiv,
I'm going second.
second by An Ping. Let's take a vote. Ward 1,
Yes.
Ward 2 is yes, Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6.
Yes.
7 is vacant, Ward 8,
Yes.
and Mayor Fuller.
Yes.
Okay, consent agenda is approved 8-0. Thank you very much. All right, we have 3 discussion items tonight. The first is a discussion and vote on the superintendent's contract. So just to give some context here, the contract, and we have met in executive session multiple times over the last several months to discuss this. We have debated, and the committee has authorized the chair to approach Dr. Nolan with what is essentially an extension, but very precisely as a new contract to begin on July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2029. The basic terms of that were to provide Dr. Nolan in her first year of this contract, so in her next full year, what would be her third year as superintendent, the same 3% COLA that has been applied to our unions and to our non-aligned staff, to extend the term out through June 30th, 2029, to take what is a $15,000 annuity payment that NPS has traditionally paid its superintendent, and in the course of 4 years to phase that out and move that over to, let's say, regular compensation. So that happens in equal installments of $3,750 each of the 4 years, which represents no net difference in what NPS is paying out of our pockets directly. It is just a reallocation of that money. We have changed the holidays, the paid holidays for the superintendent to be in line with the rest of the district, as we have added Lunar New Year, and I believe the Jewish holidays were not on there for some reason. And I believe that was it. Did I miss anything?
$1 million. No, I'm kidding. I know I had to Thank
Yes,
goodness.
and the rest of the term of the contract was substantially the same, with some minor changes. You know, we had things that were applicable to Dr. Nolan's first year that wouldn't be applicable to her third year under our employment. So, with that, every member has had a clean copy and a red line copy versus the current contract. Those are in the meeting materials. So is there any further discussion on Dr. Nolan's proposed contract? Paul, please.
Thank you, Chris. I plan to vote yes on this enthusiastically, and I hope the community will also receive this news as enthusiastically, that we've offered Dr. Nolan an extension to 2029 to work on her in recognition of the extensive agenda she's set forth for the Newton Public Schools, and our enthusiastic support for that agenda and for her personally. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Paul. Anything else?
Chris? Not on this. I second Paul's comments, but is there a way we can turn down the volume of the in? Sorry.
Oh.
I'll speak more softly.
Yeah, thank you.
I thought you said I was speaking too loud.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Paul, you can say something?
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4.
Even apparently the neighbors are complaining.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Sorry, Tamika.
There's reverberating in my house.
Okay, good.
Okay.
It's a
Thank-
sign of my hearing
thank you,
loss.
Tamika. That was warranted.
Yes,
Um,
Paul was, you said it very well. I think this is a resounding statement of the committee's endorsement of Dr. Nolan as, and the work she's been doing and the work we hope she will continue to do.
Any other thoughts, comments, questions on Ping?
Yeah, thanks. I certainly echo my two colleagues here, and I hope this is a win-win contract for school, for our school district, and for Dr. Nolan, and also as we have seen, and she has gone through this extraordinary first year, and with the teacher strike, and I think she worked so hard. It really impressed me and my colleagues and community, and even though it was kind of learning experience for everybody, including Dr. Nolan, but I think now we feel more confident that she has learned from this experience and from the community, and we have a lot of things expected on you, and I'm so impressed with the profile of learner and the other school projects like strategic planning, and also the district survey about what we are going, where we are going, because we need all that. So expectation is very high. So I think we all hope that Newton will be benefit from your leadership. And also, I think one time, and then you said something which impressed me deeply. You said, hope Newton District will be the best, if not one of the best in the nation. And I keep that phrase in my mind. And I feel very inspired. And that goal is very high, and we have to work hard. So again, congratulations. And I feel very privileged to work with you and with my colleagues and in my last year here on school committee. Thanks.
Thank you, Regine and Emily.
I agree with my colleagues. I have to say the most surprising part of the changes to the contract is the addition of Lunar New Year and the high holidays. because I know you don't see this as a 9 to 5 job. Right? It almost seems to be a 24/7 job, and in terms of the effort you've put in, the times we hear from you, the updates we receive, so all of that work is appreciated and the forward thinking is appreciated. You're always on call, and I don't think that's necessarily always the case with anyone we could have brought into the role, and we see that and recognize it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Emily?
So I just want to echo what my colleagues have said, deep gratitude and appreciation for your leadership. Barry, did you have anything you wanted to say?
Well, I suppose I have to now.
Put down the spot.
Yes,
And the mayor.
what everyone else
'Cause I was
said.
about to call the question and I realized,
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think it's well deserved. I think you've done an awesome job, and I am super excited that we were able to do this and that you're here for a long term and hopefully even a longer term.
Thank you.
And
Mayor
I'll
Fuller?
I'll just add on, and it's an extraordinarily hard job being a superintendent, and it certainly is here in Newton. I'm glad that you raised your hand and said, yep, sign me back up for an additional 3 years on top of the initial 3-year contract. I'm grateful for that. And you are certainly a strong advocate for the students and teachers and our Newton Public Schools. I'm grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I should note, we were required, just so the public is aware, under the terms of the current contract, we were required to notify Dr. Nolan by June 30th of this year, whether we intended to offer her an extension. So we were, several months ahead of that timeline in the current contract. But I was very pleased when it was apparent that you wanted an extension and that you felt this was the place where you can make change over the next 4 years. And it has been a pleasure working with you. And I wholeheartedly endorse this. So if there's no other comments, we can take a vote. Or I'm sorry, we
Move
need
approval.
a motion to
Move
approve.
approval.
Paul,
Everyone wants to move today. Go ahead.
by Paul, is there a second?
I'll second, please.
Moved by Paul, second by Emily. And now we can take, or to be official, is there any further discussion on the motion? Okay, there. Robert's rules is happy. Now we can vote. Okay, Ward 1.
Yes.
Ward 2 is yes. Ward 3.
Yes.
Ward 4.
Yes.
Ward 5.
Yes.
Ward 6.
Yes.
Ward 7 is vacant. Ward 8
Yes.
and Ward 9.
Yes.
Okay, that is 8-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if everyone could just stay for a minute after the meeting to sign the contract, that would be appreciated. Next, we have a fiscal and ops update from Mr. Liam Hurley.
Hi, Liam.
Good evening, everyone, again. Lisa's reminded me to speak into the microphone and excuse my voice, a little bit of a cold right now. We have our, this is our second FY25 update right now. This is actually just reporting through second quarter, so through December 31st. We are at a similar place that we have been in previous years at this 47%. So out of our $282 million budget, having spent or encumbered $132 million of that forecast. Want to go through just a few areas and kind of the high level right now, conservatively projecting about a $1.2 million kind of year-ending balance. That assumes that we have right now about a $1 million reserve, and that assumes that we spend about $800,000 of that reserve, of which about $500,000 of that is connected with NCE, and we're going to get an update actually from NCE, and I'm not expecting to need that amount or really any at all. Hopefully, very, very small amount if that's needed, and I think Kate will talk to us tonight, and hopefully nothing is needed of that amount. So Some big picture items, I want to be relatively brief. Salaries and benefits, which is really comprised the majority of our budget, are in relatively good shape. We're actually in a positive position with both of those to the tune of approximately $533,000, so $414,000 positive position for our salaries and benefits at $118,000. Salaries are a combination of a few things. One, right now, and David Stickney is working hard to fill these and actually is working to fill these positions. He's had a number of open vacancies in the custodial positions right now. So that has been saving us some money. We've got some other shifts with our ISS salaries. We've also got some open positions there as well. So these are some of the basically vacancies that we've had in prior years as well, with 8 vacancies also adding to that balance. I talked about kind of the benefit piece here. Utilities, basically ending with also a pretty strong $406,000 balance. Talked a little bit about the supply rates and kind of some of the reasons for this. So just moving kind of quickly through a few of these pieces. Circuit breaker is a big piece, obviously, and we talk about kind of our gross tuitions in this document, and we're projecting, due to the fact that we carried forward such a large amount of money from FY24 into FY25, that will be below. Even that's despite receiving about $400,000 less in circuit breaker funding. That was attributable to both the transportation and the instructional piece of circuit breaker. Amy Mistro gave a little update on the grants. We did talk a little bit about some of the impact potentially for FY26, and I did just want to point out, Nick, we did have a typo. We do talk about that we've not received direction, and we mentioned here 3.5K in the special education IDA grant. That actually is 3.5 million. So I just wanted to make sure that that was to see just the size of that IDA grant. Again, there's been no word about that grant for next year, but that's one of our largest grants that we have. But thank you to Amy and her team for going after competitive grants, as well working so hard with NSF. Amy's also done exceptional work with food services. She gives some updates on some of the things they're doing. They've got a program called Mood Boost, and they've been working really hard. And I've heard this is probably the most positive feedback I've gotten from a food service vendor in my time here. So that is really saying something. So they're doing a great work. Chartwell's our program to do that. That's really kind of the main piece in a nutshell here. The expectation, barring any unforeseen items, maintenance being one, tuition, out of district tuition being kind of another area, kind of some of the volatile areas that we could hit. Just yesterday, David Stinkney came in and thinks we may have a $50,000 roof repair at Williams, at the Williams School. So these are expenses that they come to us. If they've got, right now we've got roofs that are iced up. I am happy to report, well, this is something I've talked about in the past. We did get the completion of the Memorial Spalding auditorium chairs. I'm not sure if some of you have seen that, but that's been something that's been.
They look awesome.
They look awesome. Thank you. So that has been on the list from Mr. Tom Morris, our principal there, for, I would say, 5 or 6 years. And he's been asking, and we were able to finally pull that off. So thanks to the many people that have been very patient, and the parents and the students and staff for making that and making that happen. So it takes quite a bit of time to have that happen. So that's all I've got.
Thank you.
Yes.
Maybe if I can just ask, because I know it's a question that we've probably all heard, can we maybe just very briefly discuss what we do and don't know, what we do know and do not know about federal funding?
So we have had one cut of a federally funded grant so far this year. This was a high school grant that was targeted towards special education students and their readiness for college. It is additive to the legally required program that we already provide in the Newton Public Schools for transition services for college-going students. In the IEP process, there are requirements for transition and college planning. This was on top of that. Many districts have what is called a My Plan grant. Newton came late to it and receiving its first grant this year. It grant funded 4 positions roughly in order to coach those students and give them small group coaching, instruction, and curriculum on college planning and college readiness. Unfortunately, on February 10th, we were notified that that grant was pulled. AIR, the research foundation that funds my plan, is federally funded, and so they ended that funding on that day. We will supposedly be reimbursed from the beginning of the year until February 10th. There was some discussion today that there may be even more revenue that we can vie for, which we have done so. So we have, however, working with our union partners, made sure that our teachers who took that risk of a grant-funded position, we made sure that there were places for them to land back into their units, and we negotiated that prior to the removal of the grants. So they have returned to those positions within the Newton Public Schools, but we are disappointed that such a program would be pulled. We don't know what the future is going to bring. It's very volatile. I will be at the National Superintendent's Conference shortly for a legislative briefing, which I hope will bring us more information. But as Liam can tell you, Amy Meestro, our grants coordinator, went to a fall session on our title grants, and we put the number $320,000 in there based on the advice we received at that time, but it's even a new day since then, I would say. So we are unclear what the impact could be.
Absolutely. No, that one is one we're preparing for the FY26 budget. I've heard from no other business managers have any other information beyond that. Another area to understand. So in total, we get approximately $6 million in federal grant money. In addition to that, additional federal grant money is actually our school lunch program. I believe we get approximately $1.5 million or so from the USDA. The state budget also reimburses us, so we get state money and federal money. There is some small concern about some federal money for some school lunches that I've heard about. A potential impact rate, I think, as folks know, we have free school, the first meal is free for students. So it's something that I think that we're planning for if we needed to go back to a paid meal. That's something that I think we could pivot quickly. That would be a big change, obviously, for our families and students, but that's something that we've talked about internally. Again, I don't have any other inside information if that would happen or not, but that's something that, there's a lot of things on the table right now coming out of DC.
Okay, thank you. I saw Tamika, Anping, Rajiv, and Paul.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for the update, Liam. I'm just looking to get a follow-up or a clarification on something you mentioned regarding the $500,000 encumbrance for NCE.
Yes.
I know we're going to have the discussion with NCE shortly, but from your accounting, how much of the $500,000 has been utilized for NCE support program?
Good question. Thank you. And this part may be a little bit confusing. So just think of the encumbrance as being set aside. Right now, NCE has not accessed any of that money. So we're saving that for basically, call it July, once the books are closed. If the NCE account is in a negative position, we would draw into that encumbrance account to pull any positive, so it basically ends with a positive balance. So they've actually accessed no money at this point, and my hope that there's very little money at the end of the year that they would need to access on that.
Great.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks.
Thank you. Anping?
Thank you. Leanne, we all know that the budget is tight. We had an internal discussion just a moment ago, and we heard more bad news from federal government. Well, thank you very much for this update. And it seems we have some mixed news, good news, and some, bad news. And one thing I appreciate that you're trying very hard to always have a little bit kind of a reserve, a little bit carry forward money, because you never know what will happen.
Yes.
We thought this is a bad year, but next year could it be worse? So now, one question, and I hope it will relate to this, is maintenance. And I heard, some parents reach me and talking about Newton South, the leaking situation.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I got an answer from superintendent office saying there's not enough money from district or from city. So our mayor is here. So, but I'd like to hear from you, because I recall a couple years ago when I visited the Underwood School, and the custodian showed me the roof leaking. It was very difficult, embarrassed situation when I was standing there, and showed me the leaking. Use a bucket to keep collect the water. Now this second time happened. If we don't have money, what will happen?
This is the leak at South that we have.
Yeah.
Someone showed me the photo, 3 big bucket put on the floor, and certainly the scene is ugly.
Yeah.
I mean, parents, students, everybody see that. And then they say, hey, Newton is rich community. Why you don't have money to fix this? I think the community and, school committee member probably deserve to have some, input, explanation. At least we understand how to respond to the community concerns. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, great question on ping. I think we've reported, first of all, we respond, we work incredibly hard. David Stickney facility team works incredibly hard, and it will continue to work incredibly hard to make sure before things are leaked, that there's actually repair and maintenance done to roofs. This winter has been actually, the couple of storms that we've had have actually, the snow has stuck around for some time. I can attest my own driveway has been a frozen sheet for a few weeks. It's been longer than expected. That has contributed to some of these roof leaks. Stepping back just a little bit, I think I've reported maintenance, and we're reporting it here. Maintenance has been an area that we've historically under budgeted. We've typically been $300,000 to $600,000 over budget in the maintenance category. And so we continue to try to increase the maintenance budget when we can. The mayor has been very generous looking to do one-time projects. We've got a whole list that we outline. The city has used one-time money, and we're doing bathrooms at Day coming up. We've got all sorts of projects, air conditioning projects, air handling unit projects that we've been going. With 2.5 million square feet of buildings, and I had previously in a previous career had worked actually in commercial real estate, roof leaks are actually part of a building portfolio. That is standard. You want to minimize them to the extent that you can. You're not going to not have a roof leak at some point in a building's life. We have our vendors out frequently. We need to, in some cases, we actually we try to basically patch and repair. There are certain roofs, so at some point, though, that we're actually going to need to replace. And some of these replacements can be upwards of $1 to $2 million. That vies into kind of some of the CIP projects that the city's looking at, and that kind of, competes with that. So Newton South has been an area Dr. Nolan has identified, along with Gene Roundtree, in terms of thinking about. Brown is on that list as well, but we've got a number of buildings that are aging and, not frankly keeping up with the, expectation that we would want. So my apologies to the staff and families and students that are dealing with that. It's not acceptable. David Stickney's working night, days, weekends to work on these things. He came in on the Sunday. I was here with him. We was responding to an emergency. So we've got plenty of issues that continue to abound.
Thank you. By the way, just I did acknowledge to the people who posed the question. I said, this is bad weather. When you have snow on the roof and suddenly the temperature changed, melted, but the water did not have any place to go.
Correct.
They stuck there and they found any place they can leak in, but that's the nature of the water.
Yes.
So that's a little bit unusual.
Yes.
But could you confirm the Underwood roof leaking situation still there or has been fixed?
The Underwood roof leaking problem still is a persistent problem for us. We've had contractors up there multiple times. To my knowledge, it's been fixed, and then it'll actually sometimes come in from a different spot. So this has been one of these problems. Sometimes these roof leaks are really, really challenging. You think it's in one particular spot, and it actually somehow travels. It doesn't seem possible. So I don't think we do not, and I can get a better detailed report on that. To my knowledge, we don't have that fully sealed correctly yet.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. I'm Ping. Rajiv?
Three fairly quick things. First, thank you. I know it takes a lot of effort to manage the budget and expenses and get to what, given everything that's going on, is a pretty positive picture right now. So thanks for that. Question for Anna in terms of Are you hearing anything from the state regarding funding, grants, anything like that? And then finally for Victor, please feel free to have questions as well.
No, it's been very silent from the Department of Education in terms of grant discussions. I think everybody's sort of waiting for our conference upcoming, and we're gonna get a lot of information. I hope we're gonna get some information. Honestly, people seem to be reeling from the whirlwind of competing advice. And I've been trying to keep you all abreast by sending you all of the competing memos and pieces of advisory coming out of all the government agencies. As soon as I have some clarity, I will bring that to my superintendent's report, but nothing thus far. The only piece we all know is that our METCO grant has been level funded for the state. METCO is a integration program for students from Boston. And that program, you know, we will run it with the same dollars as last year, even though we'll have increasing costs. We know that will be true. That is not a federal grant, it's a state grant. One of the volatility pieces for us right now is that even if we have state grants, we don't know if they're commingled with federal funds. And DESE has not shared any of that information with us. So the AIR Research My Path grant is the only one that has been clear to us so far.
Just follow up, like
Yep.
our two biggest sources of federal funding are Title I and IDEA.
Correct.
Correct. Do we need to build out any kind of contingency for those, or do we have some buffer of time before we get more clarity on what?
I mean, this is exactly what we're worried about. And I know the city council's worried about it, the mayor's worried about it. I mean, it's a serious amount of money. It's millions and millions of dollars. So.
And we're using every penny of it.
Every penny. Yeah. This would be devastating to our district, to every district in the United States.
Right. Sit tight and wait.
Yes, it's not a comfortable place to be.
Thanks, Rajiv. Paul?
Thank you, Chris. Just want to mention the Title I grant is a formulaic grant, and as Anna said, it's across the whole country. So perhaps we can hope that it would be politically unwise for somebody to meddle with that, but we'll see. Liam, I wanted to follow up on Tamika's questions about the NCE encumbrance account. If you are comfortable at this point unencumbering any portion of that as we head into our budget discussions over the next few weeks, because as you know, to the extent it's encumbered, it's difficult to then double count it as carry forward in the budget discussions until there's more certainty about it. So at this point, do you feel there's sufficient certainty to reduce the encumbrance? That's question one. Question two relates to a point made by Mayor Fuller when we were discussing the NCE budget issues about the mismatch of expenses and revenues. And I wonder if you feel comfortable as you next year in making any comment about the degree to which any encumbrance might be needed for the following fiscal year, for next year.
Sure. Thank you, Paul. Great questions. So we have this, and when open about this. We have a $500,000 encumbrance for NCE right now. I personally would be comfortable lowering that amount. They have brought, they are operating basically, and we're going to hear quite a bit, and you've got a package from Kate right now. They ended the year with $73,000 in their account. It has been dwindled down. Kate has taken a number of steps operationally to reduce costs. Some of those have taken some time, We're in a period, these couple of months have been a period of positive cash flow for the program. And I'll kind of get to your second point. So I would be comfortable bringing that encumbrance down to, let's say, $100,000 or $150,000. I would like to try to keep something in there in the event. I don't see us needing anything beyond potentially that. So if that was the will of the committee, I think we could do that. I think we have time to do that, coming up. So I don't know if that's urgent to do that. And Anna, if you wanted to jump in.
I just wanted to ask you directly. So we were at a, $500,000 potential deficit or 600. So you feel confident that we are not projecting that and that we have made that up. I mean, because I also want to just celebrate our dear colleague back there who's been stressing herself out beyond, imagination and working her tail off. If that's, so you're saying on camera now that you feel you're almost ebullient right now.
No, that's right. I would they, the goal would be to look at these folks, and they do have, and to Paul's question, starting kind of through, and again, Kate can speak to it better, but from June through September, they are kind of net cash flow negative. They've got all their summer expense programs. They've collected a lot of revenue leading up to that point, and then they do have that large pension payment that hits them. I think it's going to be $160,000 or so that hits them as well. Kate has asked me if I can spread that payment out. I don't think that's something that we could do. But again, rather than hitting all at one time, that is something that I know has an impact on them. They have shown to me that they are collecting revenue, serious about collecting revenue. And we'll talk about this, they've reduced credit card fees, they've reduced staffing costs, and they're still bringing in revenue, and Kate's still coming up with ideas. Do I think so? They had been losing these last couple of years upwards of $300,000 to $400,000 per year. I think it's possible this year. There's kind of three components that I think I'm still aware of. One, they used $85,000, in my opinion, of kind of one-time money of their own coalition money, which is kind of fundraising money. Two, I just want to make sure that, so we have a $73,000 balance that we've brought forward. I wouldn't think of that as revenue that's received. It's money that we've got. And then thirdly, if you recall, we are holding in abeyance $65,000 of the USB fee money. That's the custodial charge that NPS would be charging them had it not been for their position right now. So it will be a question, I think, that I'll come before the committee to ask, do we need to or can we forego 1 year of not charging NCE the $65,000? We don't have to answer that right now. That would certainly help them in this year. I know there's some discussion, and we don't need to get into that, of me taking about approximately $100,000 or so a number of years ago for kind of a utility piece. So I think that would be some area that I think for us, for some discussion to think about. So I don't yet believe that this is completely net cash flow positive on a year-over-year basis, but I believe they're trending in the right direction.
Thank you for the question, Congressman. Mayor Fuller?
If I could
Public has
just
to know.
add on, unfortunately, it is not Liam's decision about the encumbrances. The school committee voted for the 500,000 as a financial backstop. And the comptroller required the encumbrance because of our vote for the 500,000. It would require the school committee to re-vote. And if the bills came in that were higher than what was encumbered, plus the revenue coming in, then those bills would not be paid by the comptroller because there wouldn't be funds set aside. So it's a little more complicated. So Liam would have to make a recommendation to the school committee. We would have to vote. The encumbrance could be changed, but we would obviously want to work very closely with Kate and NCE to make sure their bills could be paid if that was the will of the school committee. Is that fair,
I
Liam?
think that's very fair. Thank you, and a good depiction of what those steps.
Yes, I understood Paul's question to be Liam's perception and his recommendation, not that he would be acting without the committee.
It's really the comptroller makes decision on encumbrances, just so you know. Yes, speak.
Any other questions? Okay, well, I guess with that discussion of NCE, that's a good segue into our, yes, into NCE.
Come on up, Kate.
All right.
Hello, Kate, good to see you again.
Hey, hi, everybody. Good to see you all.
We just heard great news.
I heard it. Thanks, Liam.
You're welcome. I have asked Kate to kind of to be relatively brief. You've got a lot of
Yes.
materials here,
Thank you.
so just there's a Kate is great at presenting there's a lot of information coming out from Kate, which is great. So
Okay.
without further ado.
Thank you, Liam. So I know that so number one, thank you all for having me here again. And we've worked pretty hard on this business plan draft. This is an outline. There is a full narrative document that we're also working on that will be coming. We're hoping for feedback today. So you have this, plus you have the director's report. I know you've read both of those things, so I am going to skip a lot of slides and just focus in on the ones that I think are particularly important. Just go like this.
Are you Steve? There we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, I just have to press it a little bit harder. Okay. So so you're familiar with kind of the NCE, who we are, who we serve. Okay, so this is the phased turnaround. And so we've been in this phase since August. We've been reducing FTEs. We've reduced 2.5 FTEs in the last 4 months. And we've developed a plan to rebuild the reserve. And as Liam pointed out, we've lowered our credit card fees. Our second phase that we're in right now is we're really focused on aligning with the NPS strategic objectives. That is a core part of our mission, is to serve this district. We know that the first thing we have to do to serve this district is not to be a financial burden. But beyond that, we think we could do a lot more wonderful things. And we want to also be sure that we're collaborating across Newton departments. And that is a huge focus of ours as well. We have positive relationships with the staff from PRC, from Office of Adult Services, with the library. We think we could do more, even more with those relationships for the benefit of the Newton residents. And then moving forward, and I'll talk more about this, but we really need improved financial tools to be able to do our financial analysis. We swim in a sea of Excel spreadsheets, and we have a registration system that does some things, but not all things for us. So that is core to what we're going to be working on moving forward. And as Liam also pointed out, we are looking very hard to define new opportunities. And so we've launched market analysis. We're working with a resident marketing expert, and we're hoping that that's going to yield more impactful programming, programs that we have to cancel less, that have more highly enrolled, as well as new programming. So we're working on that. So in this first part, and so this is, and I know people here are very familiar with this idea of OKRs. So we now have objectives. We're going to be focused on key results. We're going to be defining our metrics for success. And this presentation is organized according to our objectives. So in this first part, we're in return to financial sustainability and modernize our business practices. So this I'm going to right here, our pro forma. So we're on slide 11. And as Liam's saying, at the end of 7 months, so we're 7 months in, the revolving account balance has reduced to $73,695. And that's inclusive of the $72,000 starting balance, as well as the $85,000 that was transferred from the NCE coalition. In the remaining months, we're forecast to be positive net income. But as Liam pointed out, that does not include the $65,000 custodial payment. The idea is that this would be contributing to the rebuilding of a reserve that would be available to address our cash flow at the beginning of FY26. And, we have a note here. There's, if we did if the $65,000 waiving of the custodial fee wasn't approved, this would just be, instead of 170,000 at the end of the year, it'd be about 105,000. So still staying positive. Okay. And then this next slide, I think it's like on the left, it shows the lineup of our expenses. And you can see in the first quarter, we're 43% of our total expenses for the year come in. And then half of the expenses in July are attributable to the pension expense. So we are seeking to solve this. So we understand this is our annual cash flow. It's not an acute problem when we have a reserve. As long as we don't have a reserve right now, we are seeking ways to essentially flatten the cash flow. So it's not, again, so dramatic. So our number one goal is rebuild the reserve to eliminate the need for a line of credit or an encumbrance. In the interim, we would like permission to play the pension expense to NPS in monthly expenses. So we're not asking to have it waived. We're not asking to for the city to have us do it in monthly installments. It's to NPS. We understand that NPS is still paying the bill essentially, but it's it shows then our net balance on any month is not higher than 155,000 or lower than 100. We don't have that more than $155,000 deficit. So that's what this graph shows, is the impact of the monthly payments in the green line. Okay. And then moving on. So progress over time to rebuild our reserves. So our goal is to have $300,000 in reserves again, so that covers that trough and we don't have to ask the district to do it for us. We're focused on increasing the number of profitable classes that we run, exploring additional classes to run, as well as new initiatives like the travel initiative, so that we can bring in more revenue and provide greater service. And you can see at the end of 25, we're projected to have an ending balance of $170,000. If we're assuming conservatively that we're going to be positive, net positive by about 100,000 every year, we would be building that up. Again, if we pay custodial, this will be 105 to start up, and then it would be 205 and so on. But you can see that we still get to the building of a $300,000 reserve by the end of FY 27. And just in terms of that projection being conservative, we've done the numbers, of course, on our central office. And our central office, with the current cuts that we've made, we're reducing salary of about $80,000 a year total. And we understand that our pension is also increasing. So at the same time, about 6.6% a year. So it's going to be about 10,000 more next year. So the net of that is about 70,000. So we're assuming, okay, with the $70,000 savings, at least $30,000 additional revenue, that's a reasonable assumption. That's just kind of some back of the envelope numbers. This is a deep slide, and for people who like, we want to be able to fully explain how we calculate net profit, gross margin. This is numbers 1 and 2 are very important to this slide, which is we are focused on operationalizing processes that maximize gross margin, and we're really seeking data management tools to make the data accessible, analyzed by management and by our coordinators, and we are not there yet. We've gone through a lot of modeling, and we've probably thrown out 2 different models so far. And fortunately, we have experienced people working on it, but we're not to the place where I would feel like satisfied to present clear net profitability for you. But these are the highlights on it. Okay, and then moving on. So as I said, I'm an educator. I love being part of NPS. So, it's a big reason why I want to be part of NCE. And so being part of the strategic planning group, aligning directly with the strategic priorities of the district is a huge opportunity for us and a way that we want to be able to show value. And so I was bringing in some of the ideas that Anna's presented from future proofing. We've talked about using our after school capacity for remediation classes, summer classes, gap closing classes. We're going to be adding a second high school class for credit this summer. We already run ACP US History. We're going to also be running Novice Spanish in collaboration with the World Language Departments at Newton North and South. We could be working more on CTE classes outside of school hours. So these are just ideas, as well as with the potential for the additional preschools or after school. So just want to really emphasize that that's a big goal of ours. And then similarly, we want to be synced up with our city agencies. It's so important for the taxpayers, for the residents of Newton, that we be coherent and collaborative. And I think that we could do more with Office of Adult Services, with Parks and Rec, and we want to. So in terms of the way forward, so this is a good example of what we're doing in terms of the market analysis. So we've done a SWOT. It's bigger and more detailed than the highlight, but you have the highlights here, and of course you can read them. We have been looking at the different service providers in the community and doing some analysis of their costs relative to us, and finding that we are in line with and competitive from a cost standpoint. We're always seeking to provide a lot of value from a quality standpoint and convenience. We just worked on a kids survey, and so we've already gotten some really helpful results, including that people are interested in Saturday classes. Of course, they want to see more STEM classes. We're actually going to have a partnership with Ligerbots this summer, where the Ligerbots teens are going to be teaching for 2 weeks classes to elementary school age students. There's just a lot more opportunity. So we're in the process of analyzing this survey data, and we're going to be pushing out another survey to adults. But here's some different ideas, and you have here is we have mindfulness, we have board and service classes, as I mentioned, kids classes, and older student options. So like basically our high school students that we could do more with. And last year 2 years ago, we piloted counselor in training. Last year, we piloted a week of college tours and a week of Boston exploration. This year, we're doing 2 weeks of both because there is so much positive demand for that. And again, and this is KPIs are our performance metrics. We're going to be focusing on these 5 different areas. And then these are our needs and next steps moving forward. So we would like first and foremost for you to review and give us feedback on this proposal, not just here, but afterward, because like I said, this is just kind of the faceplate, the outline, the slide deck, but there's a much longer narrative document that accompanies this. We want to work internally to leverage NCE in service of NPS strategic objectives for the financial arrangements to allow us to return to pre-COVID stability. We're requesting a 12-month installments of the pension bill, waiving of the custodial bills until the reserve has been rebuilt, or maybe just even this year. Encumbrance. We are anticipating that if we end the year with 100, it could be 100, or we end the year with 170, or someplace in between. Given if we are able to flatten the cash flow with the monthly installments, we're going to decrease the need for an encumbrance, maybe eliminate it in the first year, but I think in 26 we might still need an encumbrance of some sort, or permission to or acceptance of that we're going to have this trough until we reach year 2 of the rebuild. We would like to, number 4, align on a financial plan through 26 that includes support for systems modernization. We want to make data more accessible. Of course, we want to do annual and semi-annual reporting to the school committee. So this would be the new way, like the new way that we all work together, different than the way it was before. And then leadership in establishing collaborative partnerships, which I imagine Mayor could help with. And then conducting, we're going to continue to conduct additional market research in the community. So those are our asks and our plans.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Questions from members? Rajiv, Tamika, and Unping,
Looks like Paul.
and Paul.
So thank you. Obviously, a lot of work, a lot of effort, some tough decisions, and more to come. I'll look through and share additional feedback, but certainly it's great to see positive enrollment, and I think there was a lot of community support when some of the challenges became public, and hopefully the one thing I would suggest is figuring out how to continue that momentum in terms of community support, right? And I'm sure some thought has gone into it, but I think there was an outpouring of, hey, I cannot NCE, which translated, I think, to enrollments and other things. And I think bringing is getting more integrated in with the city programs, as you mentioned, and so on. But just with the fabric of the city, where you are, I think would be very helpful. The other thing, I don't think we are able to do anything around the pensions, and Liam will have the timing of pension payments, and Liam will have the informed perspective on that. But as you think about the staffing model going forward, because you're looking at growth, right? Additional programs, and at some point you will be hopefully looking at needing additional staff. Just thinking about how to do that without then also having the effect of the pension payments going up. So just those thoughts, more to come, I think.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Rajiv. Tamika?
Thank you. So I think your business plan, and I understand it's still evolving and will continue to evolve, but I think this represents the type of strategic visioning or strategic planning that all organizations need to do periodically. And while it's unfortunate that the 5-alarm fire, if you will, was the driver of getting to this strategic planning, this business plan, I think it's a very good product and one that will guide NCE for years to come. And so using this as the blueprint for any decisions you make from now to year 5 to year 10, or until some time when you revisit this strategic plan and assess whether it still holds true and whether it needs to be amended in any way. I think that's a very good thing. That's a best practice good thing. Something else in that vein that I would put forward and suggest is as best practice is for NCE and NPS to think about some type of understanding, a memorandum of understanding, if you will, that governs how do we handle surplus funds? At what point do we consider surplus funds that have come in through the NCE program? What do we do once they've met their threshold amount, which they should have a threshold amount. That's their rainy day fund that guarantees that they're able to meet their obligations without coming to NPS. But what happens after that fund is full and rich and vibrant? What do we do then? Is it thought of as an escape or a valve that then will pour into NPS to address any number of needs? I think that's something best practice would dictate that we understand exactly what that relationship looks like and have it articulated, have it spelled out, and just have a fleshed out vision of what it looks like when they need help and when we need help. Because that's really the benefit, one of the benefits of this program. Through the business plan, you've articulated a whole host of benefits, ways that NCE can support and bolster many of the good things that the superintendent has put forward as avenues that we should explore and that our students would benefit from. I think that's wonderful, but we also have to make sure that NCE and NPS are being good stewards of each other. And so I think that's something I would say in a later version of your business plan that I would hope to see kind of factored in. Thank you. Good work. Thank you.
Thanks, Tamika. Anping?
Thanks. Very impressive presentation and with pictures and numbers and a lot of content. And I was very encouraged that we see more income coming in. That's very critical at this moment. And we want to have good news. So I feel more hopeful now. When I'm looking at this, I say that's why you kind of turned the corner, right? At least seems now. Talking about, you said working very hard, look for the opportunities. And I thought two ideas to see if I can share with my colleagues and you, and to see about a month ago, I was invited to the Lexington community nonprofit organization. Mostly they're offering the after-school program for the Chinese language instruction. And this was the celebration. And the keynote speaker happened to be the Lexington Community Education Director. And I forgot his name, John something. You probably know him, or if not, you probably could connect him easily. Because he made a very nice speech talking about, even quoted Emerson, famous person, scholar here. And I was impressed. And I asked my friend, who happened to be this nonprofit organization founder and CEO, and she was very positive. And it seems, what I learned, I said, wonderful. Because here I happen to know our Newton Chinese Language School had been trying to establish some after-school program to offer those classes, but had tremendous challenges to find a place, to pay the rental, and all these logistical issues. And I said, you work with the city. This is a typical, perfect win-win situation. So anyway, that's one idea. And then I'm thinking about other nonprofit organization in Newton. And, because there are 3 or 4 Chinese language schools, weekend language schools, but I'm thinking about other organization programs work together. It kind of, it's perfect marketing, if nothing else, because they have their network and it spread the word. So that's one thing. Oh, by the way, the Suzuki School of Music was looking for a Chinese teacher. The director, thank you, Sachiko. She contacted me twice. I said, you're looking for someone to teaching during the day for a couple of hours. I said, it's hard for me to find anyone who happened to be available to teach. But anyway, I did find a retired teacher. And then she said, so happy to let you know that we hired this teacher, but also told me she is involved in the Porch Fest preparation. She asked me to spread the word. I said, wow, she knows how to market. So again, I think that's important. So because even though I know the community education for many years, but I did not involve that much. And now I read this about the travel, about other classes. So my second idea is probably you can think about the TED program, the free to everybody. You have a platform already. And I'm sure Newton has so many well-established scholars, authors, you name it. Newton would have Nobel Prize winners living in Newton. And so if you have kind of serious presentations, and I bet if you would spread out, people would love to do that. And Newton South has the Newton Inspire, right? The program. But they put into one day. And during the weekday, I think that was a little bit challenging. I happened to be one of speakers once. And I thought it was very nice. But you have already structure, framework, platform. So again, this is a win-win situation. And I bet if you found a good speakers, and that would be huge draw of the public, like someone who just win the Nobel Prize. And I bet a lot of people just like to see him, if nothing else. And certainly I would like to do that. And possibly I could offer my service as, talking about family, parenting education, which I did at the Chinese school. And, people don't need money, but if a platform there and, there happen to be a need, I'm sure, again, this will be a wonderful platform. So just two ideas, keep you a little bit busy. And if you need some, a connection, I will be happy to
Thank you.
to get involved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ping. Paul and then Emily.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Kate, for such a thorough presentation. I think we should acknowledge also the help you've received by a number of city councilors who, in their regular newsletters to their constituents, made special mention of NCE, and the courses and the availability of courses. I think that probably turned out to be quite helpful. I'm looking at your presentation on steps moving forward, and I have a few questions. One, in terms of any mention here of your, I forget what it's called, whether it's called a board or commission or whatever, which is supposed to be appointed by various people, various organizations around in the government. And my understanding is it's not fully staffed at this point. In fact, I think even NPS hasn't named its participants in that body, but it seems to me that when the then alderman created NCE and that body, one purpose of that commission was to ensure greater coordination and advice from a variety of people in the city government and in the community. So I haven't thought about that, or whether revitalizing that group is part of your proposal. That's my first question.
Okay. The commission is extremely active with me, and they've been participating in this process. We meet monthly. We talk informally. Claire Wadlington, who is our newest commission member, who's a mayoral appointee, was instrumental in this report. Steve Logowitz, who's our commission chair, is present tonight. They are very active. They're helping with fundraising, with community outreach, with advisement, program development, getting the survey out. We have 2 spots currently available that are the school committee spots. But as far as I know, there are no other spots available.
Okay, great. Second question is, I understand why you're asking for installments on the pension bill, and given that the city can't do that, that would mean that NPS, in essence, would front you the money, and that you'd pay it back during the course of the year. Is that what you have in mind there?
Yes.
Okay. On the next one, waiving school custodial bills until the reserve has been rebuilt. Do you envision paying back the waived bills when reserves have been rebuilt? In other words, is this a grant we're giving you or a loan?
I think it would be a grant, at least for year one. Because I think that it's going to be a slow rebuilding. I think our rebuilding plan has achieves about $300,000 in 3 years. And if at that point where we have, say, $2,100 due, I mean, no, it would be more than that, $210,000 due. That could do, or $18,000 due. I mean, $180,000 due. Okay, I'm going to get to the right zero. That would be difficult. So I think the request was to waive it for at least the first year.
Okay, just speaking for myself, that makes me uncomfortable because as we were discussing earlier tonight in our working session on our budget, on the rest of the budget, there are a lot of constraints on that budget, and we will be making personnel decisions
Yes.
over the next few months. And I see NCE having the ability on a current basis to charge appropriate rates for their courses that would include the custodial bills. So while I understand the current cash flow issue, I'm not sure I feel comfortable with it showing up as a grant that isn't repaid. But that's just my immediate reaction, and I look forward to the details of that as you present it. The third point of encumbering some funds in Q1 and Q2 for working capital, do you envision that beyond the pension smoothing out?
Well, I think that if you see the graph with this pension smoothed out, we still have a trough in the first quarter of $150,000. And so we would have to, until we rebuild the reserve, a way to get through that. And so that's the idea, that we would still need some encumbrance, or I don't know if it's an encumbrance that's required, or.
So the encumbrance again is not spent by us. It's basically a backstop if needed at the end of the year. And so to the extent that by June 30th, you've got a positive balance, it's not needed. What the comptroller's office needs to be comfortable with, and we need to be comfortable with, is that if the revolving account does go for a period of time in August, September into a negative position, that salaries and expenses can still be paid from that. To date, they've been comfortable with that, knowing that we're working on a plan. I think that they would be comfortable with that. So I don't know if an encumbrance would be needed in the future unless we were concerned about a year-ending balance being negative. That'd be my sense, but we would need continued understanding from the comptroller's office that the account, particularly given the pension payment, and they also have expenses from the summer programming, that first quarter may likely go into a negative position.
Okay, I don't have a problem with the pension smoothing because that all works itself out. But I am concerned about the relationship of any encumbrance to our ability to budget for those funds for our carry forward purposes. So, Liam, I guess the technical question for you is, can we offer the encumbrance and still count that money as available for carry forward as we do our budget? You don't have to answer that right now, today, but at some point in our budget discussion over the next month or two, we'll need to have an answer to that, because what I hear Kate saying is, in addition to the pension smoothing, which isn't really an encumbrance issue, I don't think, there is a need for some encumbrance that we all hope will disappear as the fiscal year goes along. But the question I'm leaving for you, Liam, not for tonight, is to what degree does the existence of that encumbrance mean that you cannot colorably count those funds as available for carry forward? I think it's a technical budgeting and comptroller kind of question, and don't feel you need to answer tonight, but I think we need a resolution to that just so that we can all be on the same page. Okay?
Sure. I can double check that and report back.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Paul. Emily?
That's an interesting question, Paul. I also am very much interested, as I'm sure the rest of my colleagues are, to find out what the answer to that is going to be. So I just want to say something to the public who is hopefully still up at 9 o'clock at night watching this, or will be watching it tomorrow morning over your Cocoa Puffs. But so we got a lot of emails of support, support NCE. I made an impassioned speech. I got quoted about Shonda in the Beacon, the whole thing. So I guess what I want to say to people is there's been this movement, this feeling of we need to save this organization, which I'm sure has helped your enrollments. But we need to keep doing them. Yes. And I think that's a very important message to the rest of the community. And not only through events, but there's also an NCE coalition, which you can donate to, which I happen to have done in the last week. And I just would recommend, this is an amazing organization. I think we all agree that this is an amazing organization, or we wouldn't be trying to fight so hard to get you to be successful and survive. But we all have to do our part. It's one thing to say, yeah, it's a great organization, but I'm going to sit home and not worry about it. As opposed to, this is an amazing organization and I'm going to sign up my youngest for drawing too, which we just did. So it's important to know that the success of this organization, and it's an obvious statement I'm about to make, is dependent on the community. Mm-hmm. And I hope that the community continues to support it as much as I think it deserves to be supported. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Emily. I have a couple questions. I have a couple detailed things on the numbers that we can go through later. We don't need to do that at 9 at night. But in terms of, I know we sort of discussed this last time, is the plan that we are still going to just not operate classes at a negative gross profit that aren't covering their variable costs? Those will be canceled?
It's so we do cancel classes that don't cover their instructor costs. When you're determining your variable cost is collective for that site, because that includes your custodial and your site coordinator. And so collectively they cover their variable costs. And so they must cover the variable costs. So as a group, yes. And then everything over that is going to be additional profit.
Yeah. Okay.
Answer your question?
So we will, yeah. So we will cancel a class. So let's say the marginal cost of that class, the instructor, then you have the cost of running a program at that site for that evening, that day. So in each of those, we're not going to run any class that isn't covering its own marginal cost.
Yes.
That'll be canceled.
Yes.
We are not going to run sites that aren't going to cover the marginal cost of operating that site.
Yeah.
And so therefore everything we operate will have something flowing down to the next level of fixed costs, so to speak.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I just also want to say, as an example, we do have sites, unfortunately, amongst our 15 elementary schools that aren't able to have NCE programs because we don't have enough enrollment currently. And that's part of doing the market research and figuring out what that specific elementary school community needs. But as an example, that is happening.
Okay.
So yes.
Okay. And then in terms of the collaboration with the city that you've had so far, I'm kind of just curious where we are with that, and in particular Parks and Rec, which is where I'm guessing we have by far the most overlap with other city departments.
Yes.
How, like, what's happening with that? What's the level of interaction happening right now?
I mean, I think that we communicate. I was just at a youth commission meeting at the library and was talking with Stephanie. I think we communicate in a collegial way. We met with Shannon and Ricky in the fall, and we did discuss overlap. I think collectively we decided that there's actually not that much overlap. I think that, and think I said this at the last meeting, field use is expensive for us. It's not really our sweet spot is running sports, except for the MPS coach-led sports during the summertime at the Newton North Complex. So we've been kind of pulling back from that. I think that's comfortable that they really run all the field activities as well as the tennis courts. And then our expertise is more in languages and STEM and theater and arts and things like that. I think that we haven't really laid down lanes per se, but I think that we can. And even, but I would say even with those lanes, like we should all have some flexibility around the edges, because I think that, if Parks and Rec wants to run, a class that's maybe more traditionally ours because there's demand for it, then I think that that should be completely off the table and vice versa. But I think that would probably be, and is probably like maybe 5% of what they and us do. And then I'd say in the area of older adult services, we do provide a lot of services or classes. That's what we do at WPS in the daytime, and certainly in the evening to people who are, 30 up to 80, and, a large chunk who are 55 and above. And I think that we would like to collaborate with older adult services at the Cooper Center to be able to fill in gaps where their program staff say that they have and there is demand. I think that would be a nice thing that we could do for the community and probably benefit both organizations. So we'd like to look at that.
Okay.
Yeah. There's one other area that I noticed this summer is when Gath and Crystal Lake reopened, and I know that they were going through a scholarship process so that they could maintain affordability as they changed fees. I remember offering, we vet lots and lots of people and families so that they can take advantage of our scholarships, and maybe we could share that information. And so families don't have to go and jump through a lot of hurdles to basically, get approved for city services. If they've been approved by NCE, then maybe that could just be taken as word by PRC and vice versa. And then low-income families could have fewer barriers to participate in city services.
Okay, great. In terms of your asks, I think I personally don't have an issue with NPS terming out the pension. That is a pure timing issue. It's a liquidity constraint that you face seasonally that NPS doesn't really face.
Yeah.
And so while the city isn't able to accommodate that just by virtue of their structure, I think we probably are able to accommodate that, would be my guess. I wouldn't see the reason we couldn't. So I'm personally okay with that. I probably share some of Paul's concerns on the custodial fees, the use site fees, because that's real money. That's a teacher salary for the year, and we're in a position as we seem to always be of every last teacher salary counts. So I would probably like to think of these things as NPS's ability to provide liquidity when you need it over NPS just providing you grants. That would be my preference in how to think about it. But look, I have to say, I think you've made a lot of progress here. We were I know I personally was I was a little distressed thinking about this when it first came to us. It seemed a little out of control, and I know that wasn't your fault. But, you know, I think we've got a much, much better handle on this now. I'm encouraged to hear Liam say in his opinion that, you know, maybe that full encumbrance isn't necessary to the extent we thought it was. I mean, that's an encouraging sign. He's closer to the numbers outside of you and your staff than anyone else. So, I think the plan all looks sensible. You're talking about the right things. You're putting the right structures in place that just should have been in place a long, long time ago. Again, not your fault, but I think this is really a step in the positive direction. So thanks again, and thanks for enduring the last 6 months or so, which I'm sure have been rather stressful. In going through any kind of reorganization is never fun. So, Rajiv?
Thank you.
Very quick and actually more of an internal question, not one for Kate. If there are two positions open on the commission that are school committee positions, does that mean the school committee nominates people, or does it have to be a school committee member who is on that? Sorry, I don't know the answer.
Yeah, I believe
wondering.
we can nominate people. I actually wasn't aware that, and I just discovered we apparently appoint someone to the Newton Energy Commission, which which I didn't even know existed. But someone reached out to me about that. So I'm in discussion with Jill over what is the universe of appointments we have to make, that and who are those people, and when are appointments up, and what appointments are vacant. We just started that discussion actually to sort of catalog that.
That would be great, because Kate is basically down 2 people who could be pitching in and helping here. So
absolutely. Great. So and I, until you said it, I wasn't aware of it. So we will get on that, because yeah, every incremental resource helps, I'm sure.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions? Tamika, go ahead.
So mine is it's a logistical process wise one. Where do we go from here? She's put forward a couple of recommendations. When's the next time we pick this up as a discussion? Do we, that's a question.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's inherently going to come up as Paul pointed out, I think as part of our budget process, and you know, getting questions answered like, what does an encumbrance mean for our ability to count that as our part of our operating budget, and it's just a contingency out there. So I think there's some logistical questions we have to answer, but I think this just becomes part of the budget process, and probably, you know, we can include it under, I don't know, I mean, should we include it with the business and finance and just have it be a subset of that, Liam?
Yeah, so, we've been doing typically these quarterly reports. Kate was suggesting semi-annually, annually, whatever it might be. I would think it'd be a good idea potentially, we're going to go through a budget season right now, before the school year gets out. I think maybe, possibly one more touch point would be worthwhile. Just, seeing how registrations would be coming in. And then I think back again, reporting September, October, and early fiscal time, would be reporting then, and also then reporting on the results of summer and how things are going.
So, sorry, just to finish up. So in that vein, for our subsequent conversations about this through the budgeting process, one of the things that I was really wondering about, because I did share some of Paul's concerns about the waiving of the custodial amount, especially in light of the fact that NCE can currently cover those funds, though it would mean a slower rate of growth for your surplus fund. I think what would help me to understand the impact of waiving the custodial fees is understanding where the majority of the fees are stemming from. Are those occurring from your use of school buildings at elementary, where your program is running and there's nothing else running? Or is it high school, where your program's running and many other things are running? I think just understanding where the partitions are would just help to kind of right-size the fee in my mind.
And just one thing to keep in mind as we talk about, custodial fees and things like that. I mean, NCE is NPS. They're not, it's not a separate entity. We discussed this last time. It's NPS money that we're, moving from one pocket to another of NPS. So, I mean, I think, you know, just like with the pension, it provides us an inherently amount of flexibility to say it's, you know, that's maybe not a decision we have to make at this moment in time, and we can see how things, you know, come out over. It's a question of whether do we, you know, does that money move to our operating budget or not? That's really all. That's all we're saying.
Could I offer just one suggestion? And I want to just start off by saying I'm not only the assistant superintendent, I'm also a client. I'm taking a class that was unfortunately snowed out on February 6th. It's been rescheduled to March 13th, and I'm looking forward to taking my class.
As long as you're paying your fees.
I paid my fees. I booked.
Why don't you
I
tell
paid
everyone
my
what the
tuition.
class is?
Paid my tuition. So,
Yeah.
so I'm taking it's a bourbon and whiskey tasting class. So,
NCE is for grown-ups too.
yes, yes. So, yes, it's I'm really looking forward to it. Well, I just, you know, one possible idea with the custodial costs is I think that if we were to establish like a threshold for the reserve fund and saying that like once the reserve fund hits 100,000, they pay X percentage of the custodial fee. Once they hit 150, they pay a different percentage. And so I think rather than looking at it as a grant, and I agree with you that essentially we are moving money from one of our pockets to the other, you know, we could scale it based on the progress they make towards rebuilding the reserve. Could then influence, you know, the amount of the custodial fees that they contribute.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Mayor Fuller.
Nice work, everybody. I know it's been hard. On 26 of the presentation, you had the 3 financial asks in response to Tamika's question. I think all 3 have to be answered as part of the budget discussion. We were together earlier this evening talking about the challenges for the NPS budget, and these are trade-offs. These are, if we invest here, we will not be able to invest there, et cetera. So I would highly recommend that Liam come forward on all 3. What does it mean to do 12 months of installments for the pension bill? In fact, do you have tons of liquidity? And as Chris suggested, it's just, you're indifferent to doing that. Waiving school custodial bills, even with what Dr. Roundtree said, it means that it is impacting our ability to do other things. And it's a trade-off that I think has to come forward in the budget. And the encumbrance, continued encumbrance, what is the impact? Certainly on what Paul brought up on the carry forward, but I think it's more, it potentially is broader than that. So understanding that as well. And we do these tough trade-offs trying to support students and teachers and NCE, et cetera, and do it all come forward as part of the budget process with a recommendation, and we do it holistically with the other choices that we have to make.
Yep. So I mean, I agree with that. As I said, I don't know, maybe we just make it a separate piece of business and finance. Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for sticking it out late. And
Thank you all.
that concludes our agenda for this evening. We're adjourned. If everyone could just stay for 2 seconds to sign this, that would be appreciated. Thank you, everybody.